Hello and welcome to Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. My name's Dirk Keller. Boyd.
Hey, Dirk.
That's Earl Murphy. And this is our very special guest today, Kyle Hughes, the sports director at KCJJ Radio. That's the mighty 1630 on your AM dial. Kyle is here to join us and tell us about his adventures last week. This is a working man, folks. Not only did he cover the West High boys basketball team at the state tournament where they won their second consecutive title, but he also broadcast every second of the Big Ten wrestling tournament in Champaign. Now, if you're paying attention, you realize that the Big Ten wrestling tournament started at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning in Champaign. The West High team played Friday night. I think that game got over about, what, 10, 15?
No, it's on Friday night.
Oh, it's Friday afternoon. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, then about 5 o'clock.
So the game gets over, and then tell us what you had to do next.
Packed up the equipment, said bye to Nate Kading, did that game with me, and then just got in the car straight through to Champaign. About, I would say the total trip was probably about 6 hours, maybe.
From Des Moines?
Yeah. And I had driven to Des Moines earlier that morning, so it was about 8 hours of time in the car on that Friday. Get to Champaign, check into the hotel, put together some notes and stuff that you're going to use tomorrow for the wrestling tournament, write my open for that, and then try to get some sleep. I actually didn't have it as bad as Richard did. Richard was on his way to Champaign that Friday night, and his car broke down in Paducah, Kentucky.
We're talking about Richard Podaski, the former sports director at KCJJ.
The guy whose shoes I'm trying to fill, and he was going to do the Big Ten Wrestling Championships with me, and car broke down in Paducah. He had to get towed all the way to Champaign.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't get in until probably about 4 in the morning. So he was the one who was really the trooper at the Big Ten Wrestling Tournament. I couldn't have done it without him. The guy knows his wrestling really well.
Yes,
How far did he have to have that car towed from Paducah to Champaign?
It's about 4 hours. I looked up the map when he texted me and said he wouldn't be in until late, and it was so. And then the tow guy wouldn't take. The next day, Richard had to leave. We were going to go do the Big Ten thing, and then there was an issue with the tow guy, and he towed the car back to Paducah. So it was just a big headache for him. Richard was a total pro about everything. Like, stayed there the whole time, did all the Big Ten stuff, and did a fantastic job. And he's a lot of fun to work with, actually, too.
Wow.
So, whatever happened with his car?
The last that I know, when I left Champaign on Sunday, he had to stay at a hotel in Champaign, and he was going to rent a car, then go down to Paducah and try and sort things out. But I saw on Facebook something about him being at an airport. I have no idea what happened.
I'm sure Captain Steve Bridges, the owner of KCJJ, probably covered all of his expenses.
Oh, and some. I'm sure there was some interest paid as well.
Oh, my.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and I'm glad it's not as stressful as all the driving you did last weekend. Yeah,
well, with Richard's story, it made me just feel like I couldn't complain at all. So, and the tournaments went really smoothly, and it's always fun to cover West High basketball, and so really I enjoy doing the broadcasting.
Now, did you cover West High last year in the state tournament run?
I did not. I was
you weren't
still
here quite
in
yet.
School.
Yeah.
Well, that is 52 straight wins for West High. Back-to-back 26-win seasons, back-to-back state titles. They are 2 games short of the state record, which is held for consecutive wins, which is held by Ames High, with all the guys that.
Well, with Harrison and McDermott.
All the guys that didn't go to Iowa.
Yeah, exactly. They won that state title their junior and senior years.
Yep.
And it wasn't that long ago. And I think they're the only team in recent memory that had back-to-back undefeated seasons like West did.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me is, and maybe I heard this from you, Kyle, when I was listening to your radio broadcast, that the first time since, 1970 in the large school class, 2 undefeated teams had met for the championship.
Yep. 75.
That was not me, but that's
I read
certainly
that.
an interesting stat.
Maybe
And
it was in the paper, but I heard it somewhere.
there were 3 undefeated teams at the end of the regular season. Then Western Dubuque fell in the regional final. Bettendorf, ended up making that run through the tournament, and they really had an easier time going through the tournament than West did. Once West got to state in that first game that we did against Dowling, it really looked like
They were
maybe
dead in the
met their
water.
match. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Down,
I watched that game.
I
down
listened
6,
to
a
your
minute 30
broadcast.
left, and it just, the whole feel of that game, it looked like West just didn't have it. They just couldn't shoot. That happens. Anyone who's ever played sports before knows there are those days where you just don't have it, and when that kind of spreads to the whole team and your 2 stars don't have it, but they just willed their way to a victory, and that was all Lowhouse and Morgan.
Yeah.
In that final 30.
Do you want Merle?
Boy, Lowhouse is
Oh,
is
yeah.
a pro,
Yeah.
a professional. Honest guy, I thought he shot 80%.
He took his game to another level when it mattered the most in the tournament, and he really struggled in a few of those games, especially against Dowling, and he was
Really
the guy who
struggled.
took it over in the minute 30.
And he took over the championship game.
See,
That's right.
that kind of surprised me that he didn't get most valuable player for the tournament, what you just mentioned.
Now, somebody told me, I think it was Monday at lunch, that Wyatt Lowhouse, has some kind of condition, some kind of health issue, and that he was sick on Wednesday and Friday.
Well, they
Stomach
always
issues?
Yeah.
they always have him check out. I'm not sure exactly what the condition is. They've never really wanted to talk about that. They want to focus on basketball, but he'll check out. You'll notice on in the game usually before any of the starters and go dunk his head in a bowl of ice water.
Yeah.
And I think
Did
it
you hear
might
this?
have to do something with overheating or something like that. But
I think what I was told was he has a heart rate that races to, I don't know what, but something abnormally high. And that dunking his head in the ice water helps bring that heart rate down. I would think, I don't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
especially you get in those pressure situations and at the end of a long. I mean, I'm sure they've gone through all the precautions, make sure that it's
Yep.
always completely safe for him to be out there and playing the game. I'm assuming they wouldn't risk injury or his health for him to be out there playing the game or his life or anything like that. But it's just another thing that kind of adds to the Lowhouse legend, I guess.
Well, he's a clutch player. I mean,
And he plays effortlessly.
Yeah.
that whatever that was, that 30 seconds and that points that they scored in a row to take charge of that.
Oh, the Dowling game?
Yeah, in that fourth quarter there with whatever there was left.
There was a minute left. They were
Yeah,
dead in the water.
Listening to the game, I'm thinking it's over. I guess everybody
It was over.
except
Didn't he
a
get
couple of
steal?
guys on the court.
Yeah.
He got a steal.
He scored
Yeah.
4 points.
2 steals, right?
And then, and then right after that got the steal when Dowling was trying to, they put on a press, stole it again, got it over to Morgan, then Morgan made it and got an and one, then West took
Yes.
the lead, and it was just like, and you were just shocked that they could turn it on like that in the last 30 seconds when Dowling had outclassed them the entire game.
The entire game.
And sent it into overtime, and then,
And then Jeremy took over.
Yes, he
just
did.
showed, all year long they had been so balanced, and they had been like, well, maybe Morgan and Lowhouse necessarily that far ahead of the rest of their teammate or the rest of the guys in the state. But when it gets tougher in the state tournament, you get against that elite competition. Those two separated themselves as being on a completely another level.
Really something. They're both going to Northern Iowa.
Yep.
Jeremy Morgan's a senior and the son of Michael Morgan, former Hawkeye basketball player. And then, of course, Wyatt Lowhouse is a junior who's already verbally committed to go to Northern Iowa. He, of course, is the son of Brad Lowhouse, Hawkeye basketball player.
Did they change their minds?
Morgan has already signed his letter, so that's a done deal. And Lowhouse could. It's just a verbal. He has to wait till next year to sign.
now that's been an interesting question that Murph brought up there because, I mean, we've probably all been asked this question, but why not Iowa?
There
These
wasn't
two
room
guys
for Morgan
this year.
Right. Peter Jock.
But you know how that can work.
Yeah.
Why don't you bring it on, and then next year you'll have a scholarship? You know, I mean, that's Bendoff, for example, for a while. So, you know, that's just been a question that people have asked.
A lot of people.
These two guys could play for the Hawkeyes, okay?
Yes.
That'd be most everybody's opinion. Would we all agree?
Yeah.
I would say
I'm just curious. That's
just
all.
with Lohaus, while I really think he's a tremendous ball handler, shooter, improving in all aspects of his game, and even has a chance to grow more in this in his last year. I don't think he could defend Big Ten point guards.
Okay.
I don't think he has the athleticism to keep up, especially the way the Big Ten is this year and the last couple of years, where it's a point guard dominated league.
Quickness,
and
you
you
mean?
have some of the best point guards in the country all playing in the Big Ten.
Now, you've seen Mike Gasell play for the Hawkeyes.
Yes.
Would you compare him to Wyatt Lohaus? Is he quicker than Wyatt?
I would say he is quicker than Wyatt, yeah. And Wyatt had some struggles against Dowling, keeping up with probably one of the more athletic point guards he's had all year. Now, that point guard ended up with 12 turnovers, but, I mean, he could get to the lane when he wanted, and he had the height that kind of Lohaus hadn't seen all year long. And Lohaus, you know, they play such great team defense and tremendous effort, but when West did struggle against Dowling, it's because they ran into a team that was nearly as athletic as them. They had two Division I football players on that squad, and West had some trouble, especially most of their problems stemmed from big, strong guys in the post. They had the same trouble with Ike Butker of Cedar Falls when they faced them during the regular season. Just a big, strong guy who was able to, you know, outmuscle the West guys down low and get some boards and give them some trouble in the post.
Did you cover that Cedar Falls West High game?
Yeah, we did. Me and Pat did, yeah. And West was still in that one, but, you know, Butker really had a solid individual game.
And this is the big lineman, Earl, who's coming to Iowa. Yeah, you know. I should have known you know. So, West High gets past Dowling in a nail-biter on Wednesday afternoon. Then they get set to play Friday afternoon against Dubuque Senior, who also has quite a few Division I talented athletes.
Ton of height.
The only team to beat Senior was West High, and that was a 10-point victory at West High. Did you do that game too?
Yep. And that one was interesting because West put it away right away. They doubled them up in the first quarter. It was like 24-12 after the first quarter, and they just got up and ran the ball. Senior likes to slow it down, but West would play really strong defense, force a missed shot, and then push it up the floor with their athleticism and get easy buckets.
Did West have their player then? That
Yes.
Dondre led them in scoring that, and they met with 19, and you know, Pat and I kind of realized, you know, this is the first time they've really missed Dondre in that Dowling game when, you know, no one was shooting. They hadn't been in close games all year long, and you wondered, you know, are they going to start to choke under the pressure since they haven't really had to face it all year long other than their opening season game. But that's where Morgan and Lohaus came through in the clutch. But someone like Dondre, whose confidence is never wavering, I mean, and can wants athletically on a basketball court, would really come in handy when you're having an off shooting day like that.
Yeah.
So Dondre quits the team just before the final game of the season, regular season. And he's on scholarship. He's got a signed letter of intent to play at Southern Mississippi. I wonder if that's still going to happen.
It's interesting how that's going to develop. I've heard some concerns with him qualifying academically as well, that he redshirt a season, you know, get so that he can qualify to play. But you wonder how much is too much for them to accept Dondre. I mean,
is he still going to school?
Yeah.
Yes.
My daughter goes to West High, and when I told her that he had, at the time, been suspended, that's before he quit, because they wanted him to take a drug test, right?
That's what the word out on the street was, that, you know, they asked him to take a drug test, and I can understand upset about that, but it's your senior season, just take it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
He got caught in a bar after 2 o'clock.
Oh, boy.
He's a high school kid.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And what my daughter said is that he just doesn't ever study.
yeah.
She's in classes with him, and he doesn't study. Doesn't do his homework, doesn't care. She was real blunt about it.
He has to take courses in college, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's not conducive to staying in school.
No.
In college.
And something that scared away some of the bigger programs, because he was the player of the tournament as a junior and the leading scorer on West High, and a heck of an athlete in both football and basketball.
Could have played either sport at Division I level.
And it's a shame that he limited himself by not applying himself all the way around. You talk about stuff that just Fran talks about all the time when he's going to, and Coach Ferentz, it's guys who are the right fit, not necessarily just the best at there.
True.
Now, both Lohaus and Morgan made first team All-State. You've seen West play a number of times. What have they got coming back next year?
Lohaus, they have David DeLeo, Chike Uka, a couple. Uka will be a senior, and he's thin, wiry, but he's got good height, great athleticism. He can block shots, and if he can develop more of his offensive game, I think he can be a nice post for Beatty Gaddy. I mean, losing him is going to hurt. I mean, they were, and Stewart, they were limited in the post in terms of size a little bit this year, but and Morgan obviously changes as much as he does on offense. I mean, he's the school's all-time assist leader. The way that he was able to deflect passes in that game against Dubuque Senior and just take over that in the third quarter.
Well, let's talk about that senior game for a minute. I don't know, again, Earl, if you watched that Friday game. West is down at halftime, and again, just looking listless, and I'm thinking,
down
they
by
really
7,
missed Andre Alexander now. And I just didn't think they had it in them. I thought, no way can they do this twice in a row.
That third quarter, they
Jeremy
just came
Morgan
out
comes
on
out,
fire.
and he just took over.
Yeah.
3 after 3 after 3. And I really like watching the kid play, not because he makes his shots, but the way he carries himself. He reminds me a lot of his dad. You never got to see his dad play. And he really didn't play a lot for the Hawkeyes until his senior year, but he was a very valuable contributor his senior year.
Michael Morgan.
Very smooth, I think very underrated. And Jeremy just reminds me of his dad. And again, I like the way he carries himself. I like the way all these West High kids carry themselves. There's not a showboat among them, and I don't think Coach Bergman would allow it.
That would be true.
But that game Wednesday against Dubuque Senior was by far the most impressive of those 3 final games at the state. And yet, here comes the Saturday night championship game against undefeated Bettendorf.
Yeah. Oh.
And I thought, they're in for trouble. That's just going to be too much for a team that's struggled these last 2 games. They just destroyed Bettendorf.
Yeah, they sure did.
Put them away early and locked the door.
Yeah.
I mean,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, one kind of broke through in that third quarter against Dubuque Senior. I think they rediscovered who they were, got some of that confidence back, and then there was just no stopping them. I mean, they were far and away the most talented team in the state.
Did you catch Bettendorf at all while you were there?
Okay. They didn't. Yeah, well, I was in Champaign.
Yeah.
They didn't even have the Big Ten Network in the hotel I had in Champaign. I couldn't even watch the Iowa game during the break I had on Saturday. I was like, this is where the University of Illinois is, and they don't have network here.
How cheap is that?
That's bad.
Well, I was trying to save
every
the
hotel
station some
there
money because I'm
ought to have a
nice
deal.
guy.
But I got to believe there isn't a hotel in Iowa City who doesn't have the Big Ten Network.
It would be tough to fathom.
I can't imagine that happening here.
Only in Chambana.
Chambana.
Shampoo banana. So, let's see. West High, I read this just yesterday, ended up ranked number 7 in the nation by the CBS Sports whatever.
Really?
Yep. 7th in the nation. That's something.
That is something.
One of the all-time greatest basketball teams ever in the history of the state.
Yeah.
You've covered enough West High games in 1 year. What do you think of Steve Bergman?
The excellence that he demands from his players and the respect that they give him is unlike any other coach I've ever seen. And he just has to go. He's never satisfied, pushes them for the entire game, and it's really impressive, especially the way that they can defend as a team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could have not had two Division I athletes, and they still probably would have qualified for the state tournament, just with the way that their team goes out with complete effort and makes it so difficult for teams to score. In the regional final, I think they're facing Cedar Rapids Jefferson, and they had two first quarter, and I think it was like 8 at halftime. They just completely shut down the other team, and that's kind of what they did against Bettendorf too. Whenever their defense makes it sometimes impossible for teams that aren't packed with big athletes to even get open for a pass, let alone a shot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Total denial of the entry pass.
And if you don't want to play defense for Steve Bergman, you're not going to play.
Yeah. And we can't forget, is it Austin Swank?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, again, my daughter said he's just a great kid, a really good player.
He would be possibly a star on just about any other team.
Any other team.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a great career at West High. He's a senior also, correct?
Yeah. And DeLeo can kind of move into his role. Wyatt will obviously still be there. Chike will move up.
What about Tanner Lowhouse?
That's what I was going to bring up, is that he's been really to a lot of people.
Isn't he 6'6" already?
Yeah, and
What
at least
what year is he, Kyle?
Sophomore, right?
Yeah, or he might be
Is he a freshman?
And
He is a freshman.
I had heard that he might even start next year on the varsity.
Wow.
Well,
His
I wouldn't be
game's coming along
surprised. He'd be
really
And I wouldn't be
nicely, yeah.
surprised if he's 6'8" by the time next season rolls around, the way his dad grew.
And that could be if both low houses are able to average in double digits, and they're going to defend. I'm looking at West at least making another state tournament appearance.
Wow, that'd be awesome. Not only that, that was their 5th state championship.
What position does he play?
I saw him running some of the point in one of the sophomore games.
Tanner?
Yeah. And
Wow.
He can handle the ball, but he can also
6'6".
post up, and he can do things all over the floor. He was knocking down shots from outside. He looked impressive in the one sophomore game.
Imagine being a sophomore and going up against a 6'6" point guard. I don't care how large your school is. That's just something you don't see every day.
Imagine being a 6'6" freshman and being able to walk down the hallway.
Yeah. Well, last year after they won their state title game, we had Coach Bergman on here with his assistant. His name's escaping me.
He's the older coach, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he had a marvelous record ground in basketball in the state. I'm just drawing a blank all of a sudden.
Me too, but
Great guy, and I think he's Coach Bergman credited him with a lot of their success, because he comes from a different area with different background, and together they just made a really good cooperative group of coaches. I know
he
you've
wasn't
got
Bergman's coach at one point, was he?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
You've got one of the assistants on the West High team is Marty Hanrahan
Yes.
from Regina, who's been with West now for a while.
Yeah.
And we know the Hanrahans know basketball.
And Randy Larson used to be with Bergman over at West.
That's right.
They had Regina coach now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say enough about the West High boys basketball.
Pretty
program.
impressive.
Yeah. 2 wins to start the season, and they'll tie Ames for the most consecutive wins by any team in the state of Iowa. And that's saying,
Wow.
I'd really like to see them break that record of Ames.
Yes.
Well, there's a real good chance they will, I'd
Yeah,
say.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, again, we're visiting with Kyle Hughes, who is the sports director at KCJJ Radio, the mighty 1630. Kyle, it wasn't enough that you covered the state tournament. Then, as we said earlier, you had to get in the car and head straight to Champaign. And then you cover the Big Ten Wrestling Tournament. First session of the tournament on Saturday morning went gangs for the Hawkeyes. 9 out of 9 wins.
Yeah.
I'm listening
Looking
to
good.
you. It's just, I thought, wow, we're on our way.
Yeah.
Got the lead, got a big lead over Penn State and Minnesota. And I knew Friday night or Saturday night it was going to be tough. But didn't think it was going to be that tough.
Yeah. And there was definitely some upsets that happened, and I think when St. John lost in his semifinal matchup, that kind of set the tone way things were going to go for the rest of that night. And and Penn State was taking care of business. That's the difference. Iowa took care of business in that morning, and then
session.
at night it was dominated by Penn State. And,
They got the pins and the extra team points in the evening session that Iowa got in the morning session, and it reversed everything.
And Penn State, to their credit, just has some top-end wrestlers who are just a whole nother level, even in the Big Ten, which is the best conference, in the nation. But Taylor and Ruth are just out of this world.
Well, then, what was Penn State's lead then going into the Sunday morning round?
Going into Sunday morning, I believe Penn State had 131 points and Iowa had 112 and a half.
Okay.
And then Iowa again started to handle their business.
Yes. Yeah.
In that Sunday morning session.
Couple pins.
Yeah, at bonus points, and all of a sudden they're headed into the first, third, and fifth place matches down half a point to Penn State. And, that's what it came down to, is who executed in crunch time. Penn State was 4-0 in the first place matches. Iowa was 0-4.
0-4.
Yeah, wow.
And they had direct matchups in 2 of those title bouts.
And
With Penn State, I mean.
if you just, if you take care of your own business, at least if you beat the Penn State ones, I mean, Iowa had the most third place and fourth place finishers. If you just split with Penn State and at least win 2 and they win 2, then you end up taking home the Big Ten title most likely.
Well, and all 9 of our wrestlers that qualified, I mean, all finished second, third, or fourth.
Mm-hmm.
That's 9 wrestlers in the top 4 in the Big Ten.
It ain't bad,
but
it's hard to swallow.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow.
For Coach Brand.
No individual champs. I mean,
First
third
time
place
since
finish 2006.
Yeah.
And there were not very many happy Hawks on that.
Well, the least happy I heard was Matt McDonough at 125.
Yes.
He threw his second place medal in the trash when he walked off the floor.
And that caused a lot of controversy. A lot of people were unhappy with that, saying it's not classy, but that's
been going on in wrestling for a long time.
Wrestlers are a whole nother of guys, and Matt McDonough has already accomplished so much that when he fell at 125 to a guy who's just seemed to have his number in Delgado,
he does.
It was completely understandable for him to be that upset. I mean, that kind of set the tone for the way things were going to go for Iowa. It was a big loss for him. It was a big loss for the team. He had something to prove, and he didn't get it done. He threw away that medal, and I'm sure, in the grand scheme of things, eventually he'd be like, oh, I kept that medal, and he'll probably get it back. But at the same time, that just kind of adds to the legend of Matt McDonough.
Well, he was certainly a marked man.
Yeah, all year.
Yeah, absolutely.
For several years.
True.
The crowd, the entire crowd, that was the amazing thing at Champaign, is it's not just the wrestler going up against Iowa who's rooting for the guy against Iowa, it's everyone else in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Penn State's now won 3 in a row, you don't get the same reaction when a Penn State guy goes down as you do when an Iowa guy does. That just shows the respect that Iowa has, and they'll gladly embrace that bad guy image. I mean, we're the empire in, the
Evil empire.
The Darth Vader of Iowa, or excuse me, collegiate wrestling.
But all of that we've just talked about, I can't imagine giving the Hawkeyes much more incentive than they have now going into the Nationals.
And if they're able to, a lot of their
In Iowa, by the way.
a lot of their wrestlers placed better than seeded, and there were positives out of that.
Ethan
they weren't
Lofthouse.
necessarily favored in the Big Ten tournament. Again, Penn State had 3 or 4 number 1 seeds. They all ended up winning. Iowa, Ramos was kind of a toss-up with Stieber. Stieber
was the number 1 seed.
He's been tremendous all year long, and they didn't face during the year. Ramos has never gotten him. He took him into overtime, and it just seemed like the other wrestler kind of dictating the pace on Iowa.
Yeah.
Delgado was the wrestler of the tournament.
Yeah.
McDonough, that's just a bad matchup with him, but you gotta give props to Delgado. He was the most impressive out of McDonough, Megaludis, and Delgado. That was the most looked at bracket going into things. The 1, 2, and 3 seeds were all toss-ups.
Yeah.
They'd all beat each other.
Evans.
Yeah.
Evans, he was right there, and just he got caught. going in for a shot, and
Got a 5 count, didn't he? Or
yeah,
he
he got caught, and Brown took him down for the takedown, then
Brown's a
got the near
good
fall right
wrestler.
down to his back. Again, yeah,
He's
he
a
was the
strong-
5 seed,
yeah.
He's one of the
but
strongest wrestlers I've seen.
He looked just sculpted, and it was hard to believe they were the same weight.
Evans had gotten him during the year, though.
Yep.
You know,
That was here, though.
any match can turn on a dime like that,
Yeah.
and that's what makes a championship so you can get it done. But
Didn't Evans get him here at the very last second? He squeaked it
believe
out.
So, yeah. It was, I believe, it's like a 4-3 decision.
Yeah.
And Iowa had to execute things in the final seconds a lot at the tournament, and you know, some of that stuff isn't necessarily going to go your way when you go to nationals, but at the same time, you can rank really highly in the national in the NCAA tournament without having a lot of first place guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see how Iowa comes out in Des Moines in a few weeks and how much this motivates them. But yeah, they've kind of hit a little downturn in the last couple weeks.
They have. They really have. I have to say I was impressed with Ballweg, who
Yes.
really hit the skids at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, he came out
Boy,
of the
did he.
tournament, and that was one of the guys. He wrestled up and got into the championship, and that kind of was able to balance out what happened to St. John falling in the semis. But at the same time, then you end up with a guy like Ballweg going up against an undefeated wrestler in Stieber that you're not necessarily expecting him to pull off the victory.
No.
Whereas St. John, if he would have went up against
two
Welch,
little
that's a
kids
guy
right
he's
there.
owned all
Two
year.
Stiebers.
Yeah,
Two
Ramos.
Stiebers, yeah.
Ramos weight. That's who beat him.
Yeah.
Is Stieber. I mean, let's face it. There are some great wrestlers at other
Right.
programs like Ohio State and Minnesota, but Penn State, they've just had some of the most outstanding wrestlers we'll ever see in these last couple of years, and they still got one more year with most of these guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man,
That,
jeez.
but something that Richard pointed out is before Penn State had 7 or 8 All-Americans, and now it's kind of falling down to maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
They had that big boost from Sanderson taking the job there. Now they're kind of
Yeah.
coming back down. I mean, they've won 3 years in a row, but that championship was right there for the taking for Minnesota or Iowa.
Is this
was.
is this his 4th year at Penn State?
I believe so.
So
think
think
that's
about
right.
that. He didn't win it his first year, and then 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
Well, it sounds like an Iowa resume, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
A Gable Brands resume.
Yeah, more power to him.
Yeah.
He did.
And he's got that hot East Coast and a lot of good wrestlers out there, but
I mean, he's got a tremendous base to go from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pennsylvania are the top 2 states in the country for wrestling.
Well, he knew it was time to leave Iowa State.
Yes,
he
he
was never
did.
going to compete on the same level with Tom Brands or Dan Gable, let's face it. And he goes out there at the perfect time when all those high school seniors were ready to commit, and he
Yeah.
got them. That was a big part of the reason he went to Penn State, was the timing and the talent that was out there, and he got them. And they've risen to the occasion. More power to them. We'll see if they can do it in Des Moines.
look at where the Iowa State program has gone since as well.
Yeah, right in the
So
toilet.
he made the right move professionally for himself
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
and his family, without question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the NCAAs are next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend in Des Moines. You'll be there
Yep.
covering everything.
Yep, 21st through the 23rd, we'll have all the sessions.
And that starts on a Thursday morning.
Yes,
You are going to have a
it's going to
long
be a
weekend.
long 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
That, guys, that's a lot of talking all day and night Thursday.
Having Richard there for the Big Tens was so much easier than when I did state wrestling, and you're covering 8 mats by yourself. Sometimes 4 kids you're watching all at the same time. That gets a little difficult, and you're just begging for those breaks to get a sip of
bet.
water even.
I'll bet.
Better make sure that Richard has his car fixed before that.
Yeah, we're hoping we'll have that.
Is he coming? He
Yeah,
is
he'll
coming
be
to Des
there
Moines.
for the Des Moines
Yeah.
one. I'd never worked with him before, but I thought we worked really well together.
I
He
thought
knows
so.
more of the technical stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of there to moderate it and keep it moving along.
Well, I think you do a great job, and I think the radio station has made a heck of a commitment to Hawkeye Wrestling to be there not just for the Big Tens and the NCAAs, but weren't you at the national duels as well?
No, we were doing playoff basketball.
That's right.
Well, KCJJ has made a commitment to the community. I mean, throughout the year, they do a wonderful job with the high school sports as well.
Yep.
Football, basketball, softball, right, Kyle?
Yeah. We'll be starting up softball at the end of May. Really, this is entering into kind of the only downtime we have all year long.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
You need a break.
Clear Creek on?
What's that?
You're going to take Clear Creek?
Clear Creek and softball and Solon is a game that, obviously we've got. I think everyone has that one circled on. We're certainly
Former Clear Creek coach is now the Solon coach.
Yeah.
There's going to be some blood spilled in the streets.
That'll be interesting, won't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
be
sir.
like the Hatfields and the McCoys pretty soon.
Kind of like
close.
Regina and West Branch. Kinda.
That's right.
Kinda.
Okay,
Well, that's not all that's going on in the world of sports here in the Iowa City area. The Hawkeye men's team it just came off a nice week of basketball. Beat not only Nebraska for a bit of revenge on one of the worst losses of the season, but they also beat the dirty, stinking, cheating Illini. And
Yes.
that was beautiful.
yes, that was fun.
That was really nice because there were way too many Illini fans in the arena.
But the Hawkeyes finished the season winning 6 out of their last 8 regular season. I mean, we were sitting here not too many weeks ago. We were 3-7.
And we said on this show, there's no way they're going to make the NCAA tournament.
That's right, and we're thinking, how are they going
I
to
think they made
go?
it
How are they
already.
going to make it to 9-9 and
Not
go
yet.
6-2 in their last 8 games? And they did it.
Yeah, they did.
Just because the experts.
And Nebraska's the
that's
one they
what
shouldn't have
mine-
lost at Nebraska, but they did.
They shouldn't have lost at Nebraska. They shouldn't have lost a lot of games, but they did. Here they are with 20 wins and heading into the Big Ten men's tournament on Thursday night, 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network.
As a 6th seed,
Yeah.
we never thought we'd get. Now let me ask
Remember
you
last
this,
week we said it's possible, and then it happened.
but improbable. But other teams had to get beaten. That happened.
It did.
But you know what? Let's say we beat Nebraska and Lincoln. That was a very disappointing loss. And instead of being 20-11 and 9-9 in the Big Ten, that would put us at 21-10 and 10-8 in the Big Ten. Would that really improve
No.
It takes
our
away
RPI,
that.
our the way the NC looks at
It
us?
takes away that bad loss. on
Right.
the-
That's all
Okay.
it does.
Resume, and that can help quite a bit. But and then you go in winning 7 of your last 8 instead of 6
Yeah.
of your last 8. With
Yeah.
that lone loss coming to Indiana, and I think you look a lot more like a tournament team. And then right now, I think they have to win 2 in the Big Ten tournament.
too.
If they had beat Nebraska, maybe it's 1 and they're still on the bubble.
Yeah.
But if Michigan State outs them for a year, then I think it's just a high seed in the NIT.
We owe
Okay,
Michigan
what if
State.
we win 1 and that's it? Okay, then let's say,
Then you're
how
talking
is
about
that
needing a
Illinois-Minnesota
lot of
game going to help
exactly.
Iowa?
You need a lot of help from other teams, and that's not the position you want to put yourself in. I mean, that's essentially what happened with the wrestling is you had to count on too many on other teams kind of failing and not taking care of your own business. Iowa needs to win too.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. Well, and I'm talking to somebody affiliated with the athletic department just yesterday, and I just want to hear what you've heard. That if, let's say, we don't make the NCAA, and we probably then would be maybe a number 1 seed in the NIT, even with the women's regional here for the NCAA, it's been said that there is a possibility that we could have 3 home NIT games here for the men. Have you guys?
I haven't heard 3.
I haven't heard 3, but I'm sure we would host games because they're going to work arod the NIT.
That's the
will
point. They're going to work
the NCAA
around the
schedule.
women's regional that we're already scheduled to.
Yeah.
But that surprised me a little bit when I heard it from somebody who was in the athletic staff.
Gary Barta said that to you?
No,
Sorry.
no.
Well, I don't want to think NIT right now. I want to think that we can exact a little revenge on Mate. Earl, did you go to that Michigan State game here? I thought so.
Yeah.
What game was that?
Boy, well, that was early.
We didn't have Devin Marble that game.
That was mid-January.
Yeah, he was hurt with an ankle. And
They never had a lead, did they, until
Not
about
till
a
the end.
minute left?
Iowa was up 4 with 2 minutes and 16 seconds left, up 1 with about a minute 5 left. 11-4 run in the game by Michigan State, and they end up winning it by 3.
I thought we got
Yeah.
out-coached that game. And that's not putting Coach McCaffrey down or the staff. That's how good a coach Tom Izzo is. His team was going nowhere that game, and they pulled the fat out of the fire. I was impressed with them because that's not a great Michigan State team.
That's what makes them so scary to match up
Yep.
with in the Big Ten tournament is they're so good in tournament play, whether it's NCAA or Big Ten. They're the defending Big Ten tournament champion. Last year, they were a good team at all. They were extremely reliant on Draymond Green.
Yep.
He's gone now, but they're a much better team this year. They're more developed. A
Well,
lot of guys
they're
really
better
come up.
balanced than we think, because what you say, they're not a great team, they don't have the superstar, but didn't they have 3 guys make the all-tournament, all-Big Ten second team?
Did they really?
They had 2 for sure.
They've got a
What do
lot of talent on freshmen too, and guys
Yeah.
who keep improving.
We had 2 guys on the third
Team, yes.
Aaron White and Devin Marble.
One made the media team and one made the coaches
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, you're right. Michigan State, 3 guys on the second team, all Big Ten. Keith Appling, Gary Harris, and Adrian Payne.
Yeah, now that's pretty impressive, guys.
Yeah, it is.
That's pretty good balance.
Again, really good coaching. Tom Izzo.
Oh, one of the best.
I see that Bo Ryan from Wisconsin won Coach of the Year again. Is that right?
Now that
Did I read
surprised
that
me.
right?
He won
Yeah.
the meet the coaches. Oh,
It surprised me too.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just prejudiced.
They turned around and really impressed in the Big Ten season when they didn't look like a good Big Ten. They didn't look like a good team going into Big Ten play, and I mean they pulled out a lot of close wins. They did what Iowa should have done. They got their close victories.
Right.
They pulled off things when they needed to, and that's why they're ranked and have the Coach of the Year and a lock to be in the NCAA tournament.
some
Here's
big
what
road
his
games,
plaque
too.
should say when he gets Coach of the Year, plaque from Big Ten. In large capital letters, it should read luckiest
Yeah.
coach of
That's
the
what
year.
I thought. I thought they
Because
did
that's what Wisconsin did. They pulled several games out of their posterior.
Yeah, they did. Look at the game against Iowa in Madison.
Oh, my
Look
God.
at the last game of the regular season against
Yeah.
Penn State.
Look at Ben Brust throwing it in from God knows where against
Half-court
Michigan.
shots.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
and just unbelievable.
I think sooner or later that kind of hot streak ends.
Well, we could use a little of that luck, as was indicated.
Well, I think we're due.
And
Yeah.
the one thing that can be said about I think they get by Northwestern. I mean, they're focused on that.
better.
Northwestern's playing awful. They have to. But Michigan State is actually a more favorable matchup, in my opinion, than Indiana, obviously,
Yep.
or Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think they match up better athletically with Michigan State than they do those other 2 teams.
You know what I'd like to see is the Hawks beat Northwestern and Michigan State. I don't know who they'd play then for the third game, but Wisconsin's on the other side of the
Yeah.
bracket. I'd love to see them again.
That'd be nice.
It would be-
That'd be
it would.
nice.
They would have to probably get by Ohio State. Ohio State's the 2 seed, assuming they beat. I think it's Purdue taking on Minnesota.
I think-
maybe in the 7-10.
I think Purdue is the hot team in the league right now.
They've been playing well.
Strong. I think they're going to be tough to beat.
That's
anybody.
just it. In the Big Ten, I mean, other than Northwestern and Penn State, probably those 2. I shouldn't even say that, but
On any given night, the
Oh, yeah.
end is tough.
it's who's hot and who's not, Murph, you know? And I just like to see the Hawks just once have a hot shooting night from the
I'd
outside.
like to see them.
That'd be nice.
I just like to see it. Remember Brody
Brody Boyd.
Boyd, and when
Yeah.
we won Big Ten in 02 or whatever?
Was he a freshman that year?
Yes.
He got the
He was
hot
a freshman,
hand.
record
He had the hot
record.
hand. Yeah,
He could make those long shots.
yeah, those boys
And
can shoot.
Iowa was a 6 seed.
6th seed, that's right.
Yeah. Hey.
And Brody Boyd, yeah, he'd averaged like 5 points a game that year as a freshman, and he came in and
We
lit
had
him
a
up.
record.
Lit it up.
Well, he
That's
didn't get to
right.
play, though. He was hurt.
That's
right.
why Boyd
Yeah,
was
so
playing
Boyd
that.
stepped
That's
in, one
right.
Indiana boy for another. And
Forgot about-
I just read this morning This is the 15th year for the Big Ten tournament.
Wow.
It's probably hard for you, being a young buck, to appreciate that there never was a Big Ten postseason tournament.
Yeah, I can't remember when it was just regular season. I remember
Yeah.
watching the tournament when I was a kid. But
And we've actually won it twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we haven't won a regular season Big Ten championship in basketball since 1979.
That's right. Your year.
That's unbelievable. Because we've had a lot of good basketball.
yeah,
I remember I took that for granted that year. Haven't done it since.
And that was, we tied, I believe.
We did. It's like a
Three-way or
three-way
something.
tie with
Yeah,
Michigan
Purdue
State and
was it?
Purdue.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Anyway, McCaffrey's going to get one.
Yeah.
We're going to get that done.
what's been so impressive is the people that he's brought in, even in his first year when he was not getting as high ranked recruits. He
Yes.
still brought in Aaron White and Oglesby in a really solid class when he didn't have a lot of time to get things going. I mean, he was the only one who saw White being the type of player that he was, and he's a tremendous asset to Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, the second
what
best
about
player on their
next year?
team. Jock,
Peter Jock,
Jock is a heck
player,
of a
the
shooter.
Mr. Basketball,
Mr. Basketball
in Iowa.
over the West guys.
Yeah.
Averaged like 26 points a game.
Did you see him play?
I didn't. They
No?
didn't make. I was really looking forward to
He's
opening.
good, really good.
Yeah, the thing is that he was getting offers or getting looked at by the best Division I basketball teams in the country
As a
when-
freshman and a sophomore.
went down with injuries, and it took him a long time to come back from it. It was an injury that takes about 18 months to heal from, and McCaffrey or Iowa stuck with him the whole time, and he really awarded that loyalty. Now he was starting to get more looks again, headed into his senior year, but he wanted to go to Iowa, and it's really looking like it should pay off. Is if he can stay healthy. He's a tremendous shooter, athletic, good size, good defender. He could come in and make an impact right away, especially shooting from outside.
I expect him to start.
Does he?
I've heard people say I don't think he's going to be able to. Well, who's he going to start over? That's the thing is they
see.
seem to have found a lineup that works pretty. Iowa has good problems in terms of who to give the minutes to. Even with Olashini, the way he keeps growing and emerging,
Yes.
you have to
Yeah.
wonder how are they going to end up keep giving Woody time and playing Olashini. You could put both of them and start them. Iowa has so much depth and versatility in their lineup that they could mix and match so many different lineups. Going into this year, I actually thought that Iowa should bring Aaron White off of the bench because he can come in at so many different positions and play so many spots for Iowa, and that he would
Cause
still
matchup problems.
Yeah, and he would still end up playing 30 minutes a game. Play the first or second most minutes. Obviously, that didn't happen, but who knows how creative Fran wants to get in the future.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if Woodbury didn't start.
And I don't
Excuse me.
mind
He
that
may
he's
have had his best 2 games of the season this past week. But I
Yeah.
still wouldn't mind if he didn't start.
and that may be something you see next year,
Yep.
because there's going to be a lot of.
You got
There's
Utah,
only minutes to go around,
you got
guys.
Jock, and you've got Meyer, the
Meyer
redshirt
will be
freshman.
coming off the red shirt.
He's 6'10".
Has anybody seen any of the practices where Meyer's involved in
No.
Utah? Okay.
No.
And yeah, that's Utah is essentially a very similar player to what White does. I mean, they can.
Yeah.
They're both very versatile. You can put both of those guys out there at the same time. Iowa, not only are they going to have really talented players, but they can play in so many different positions. And Bull's shown that he can handle the point. You could be looking at a lineup potentially out there with Woodbury, Olashini, White, Uthoff, and Marble. It just the shortest guy is 6'6", and everyone else 6'9" or above.
I'd love to see that.
I mean, that could cause some matchup problems. They've found
They
that
all
this
can
big
run.
lineup with
They all can
May
run.
in the starting lineup has worked out pretty well, causing matchup problems. I think the main reason they want Cassell back is to match up with point guards in the Big Ten.
And free Marble up
Yeah,
to
and-
create.
Yeah, I think he's almost better when he's able to play that point and have the ball in his hands. He can create a lot there. He's good at finding his
He wants it
teammates.
too.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took. I think he took over that Illinois game.
He just seems to be more in the flow of the game when he kind of can set and control the pace of
Yeah.
it and find his offense when he needs to.
You know,
Well-
There are about 8 teams that play the same way, on offense especially.
But it's becoming the style
Yeah.
of the Big
maybe that's
Ten.
it.
Big bodies, but big-time athletes, too.
Well, preseason next year, we will not be considered a Big Ten title threat, probably, but this team will contend
I agree.
for the Big Ten championship next year.
I agree,
think.
Bob. I agree.
I mean, obviously, people have to stay healthy and all of that.
Yeah, there's so many variables and factors.
Yeah,
that
there
play
are,
into it,
but the talent and the coaching.
Do you think
do it.
Indiana is the team that was original?
That's a good question.
I don't.
I don't know what's happened. You know, they lose at home on Senior Day.
And cut down the nets.
And then they go up to Michigan and beat them on the Senior Day for Michigan.
Well, Michigan handed them that game
They did.
by missing all those free throws
They did.
in the last
And the
minute and a half.
The
Yeah.
decision making when they had the ball in their possession,
Yeah.
bizarre. But it's still this league. You know, the top 10 teams in this league can win it all in the Big Ten tournament. And I know I was against the Big Ten tournament when they first announced it because it meant fewer in-season games against each other, and I still don't like that.
Yeah.
But the Big Ten tournament's really exciting.
It's been
Absolutely.
good. Yeah, you're right. It's been a good
And
thing.
it's a sellout this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's
so people from all around the country want to see Big Ten
Yeah.
basketball.
Are you going?
I'm not. I won't
Okay.
be there.
You could get a media pass, you know.
I know. I'm going to be working on.
It'd be fun to go somewhere.
Yeah, you got a lot
and
going
the
on.
way, the way
Yeah.
things have gone for the Hawkeyes when I show up to the games usually is.
Then stay home.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be
Now,
watching.
Are
The
you
Hawkeye
a bad luck
women.
charm?
Ah,
That has the damn thing to do with it.
yeah. Kyle, what do you think about the Hawkeye women? Are they in the NCAA tournament?
I think so, especially
too.
hosting
Yeah.
I mean, that TAA women's tournament, a little bit different than the men's. They want to get that attendance. Iowa has the resume, plus they host. So, I mean, you put Iowa in there, then you're talking about selling another 5,000 to 6,000 tickets than if they're not in there. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, you have to put the Hawkeyes
One of their
in there.
post-game deals, one of the coaches, I don't know if it was Lisa or Jan Jensen, and they were talking about if they got in and what would they be seeded. Well, I thought I heard somebody say a 7 or 8 seed. Now, if you're a 7 or 8 seed,
Big trouble.
yeah, but you're still in the tournament.
Yeah,
You know, and
but you're playing a number one,
yeah,
probably.
but still,
But again, that's just kind of fitting into what I think is kind of slated to go into what Iowa's hosting. I think they're set to host 2. So
Yeah.
Iowa's probably going to get a 7 seed or a 10.
yeah.
And that's going to be not this weekend, but next weekend. Same as the NCAA wrestling tournament.
tournament.
Well,
Oh.
quite the same. Wrestling tournament's Thursday through Saturday. The women, I believe.
Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, Sunday, Monday.
And there'll be.
Or is it Saturday, Monday?
It might be
It's
Saturday.
Sunday. No, it's Sunday.
Sunday.
Yep. It's
And
when
the-
everybody gets back from spring break.
The men's tournament will be going on at that time as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I mean, we're getting down to.
Yeah, that'll be
all
going on
these
Thursday
sports
through
kind of
Sunday,
concluding,
the men.
and potentially could have 3 Iowa teams competing that weekend. At least hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe Murphy, how we doing on time here, bud? We got 5 minutes to go. I want to bring somebody on the set here real quick who's never been here before. Judy Boyd, Bob's wife, is here.
Judy's here?
Judy, I want you to come here behind Earl and just say hello to everybody. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you're a lovely lady, and I just want everybody to say hi to you. You are here to pick up Bob, and it's just nice of you to be here.
Hello.
That's Judy Boyd. Oh, look at that.
Well,
There's she,
you know-
lovely and
This is a
talented
surprise.
Judy Boyd.
I'm glad
Thank
you showed
you.
up to pick me up, Judy.
Yeah, me too.
I really put her on the spot. I just had to do that. Yeah, I owe you one. I'm sorry. You know, we haven't talked about City High Athletic Director Deanne Kramer, friend of Sports Opinion.
Yes.
She was our guest here, I believe it was last summer.
Yeah.
And a wonderful person. She has announced her resignation at the end of the school year. She's going to take a similar position at Pleasant Valley High over in the Quad Cities, where her husband. So, no more driving back and forth. Didn't she tell us she has a place in Tipton or something?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, I thought that rung a
Certainly
bell.
more convenient for marriage, I would think.
Oh, I would think so.
And
So-
you got a new athletic director, Coleman.
Terry
Yeah.
Coleman,
Yeah.
former girls track coach at City High
Yes.
and current assistant principal. Why does that name ring a bell? Terry Coleman.
You might be thinking of Jerry Coleman, who was an athlete.
Yeah, he
years
was.
ago.
He was the longtime Padres sponsor.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm not mistaken. But Terry Coleman, did he play for Iowa? Did he run track for Iowa?
Don't know.
I don't either. The Press Citizen didn't have a single thing.
He ran track for City High, I know that.
Terry Coleman did? Maybe that's what I'm
Well, see, I'm thinking, you might be thinking of Jerry Coleman. There was a Jerry Coleman that it's, well, we'll have to check that out, Derek.
If you know the answer, call Bud Simple's house after midnight and leave a message on the voicemail.
Yeah.
Kyle, now baseball's up. I hear, I just before I came here, heard that Friday's Iowa baseball game has been postponed and that they might be moving the games from Duane Banks Field.
I saw that it was postponed. I did not see, anything about moving them.
I don't know.
They might be behind on some of the treatment of the field with the weather we've been having, and just kind of some late snows and unpredictable weather. That's baseball in Iowa.
Do we know how they've done in their preseason record? Do we know what it is?
It isn't bad.
It's better than it
They
usually is.
won 3 in a row last weekend.
Good.
The baseball team. The softball team has done very well.
Yeah, they've pulled off a lot of wins over ranked teams.
Yep.
They've got a heck of a 1-2 punch in the pitching staff and brought back they lost Liz Watkins, but they brought back nearly everyone else.
When will you do your first baseball or softball games for the
End of
KCJJ?
May. We haven't made up the schedule yet, but around the end of May, beginning of June is usually when we start.
End of May.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a nice break coming up here.
Yeah.
As soon as the NCAAs are over.
Yeah. We've got, that'll be a marathon of coverage over 3 days, but it'll be a lot of fun, and there's a lot of storylines other than just Iowa, trying to compete for another national championship. There's Kyle Dake of Cornell trying to win a 4th straight national championship, but
We got to see him wrestle here in Iowa City this year.
And
has anybody ever done that before?
No, he would be the first one to ever do it. And
4 national titles at 4 different weights. Impressive.
I think he's going to.
Kyle Dake from Cornell. And Cornell's got a good team, a good tournament team.
Well, give me a prediction, guys. Who's going to win the Nationals? Who's going to be the favorite? Is it Penn State?
It's Penn State.
Okay.
And, I think Taylor would run up against Dake, and, that's going to be challenging for them.
Taylor's so good.
Exactly. That's probably the most anticipated matchup in the entire NCAA tournament.
And you know what's a shame? The NCAA tournament, wrestling tournament, championship bout. These guys don't wrestle. They pretty much avoid each other, whoever it is. You don't see a lot of wrestling. There's just so much tentative approaches.
Guys don't want to make that one mistake by being aggressive. That's
too much
essentially
defense.
What happened to Evans in the Big Ten championship. He went for to score some points, went for his offense, and the guy from Penn State able to take advantage and got those big 5 points. Derek St. John essentially wrestled almost completely defensively that whole time, and it ended up costing him, but at the same time, was better at creating offense out of his defense than DSJ.
Well, we're going to find out soon enough, not this weekend, but next weekend, for the NCAA wrestling tournament in Des Moines at the Wells Fargo Arena. You can listen to Kyle Hughes on 1630 a.m. That's KCJJ. They'll have every second of coverage. And Kyle, we've run out of time, but want to thank you for being here. The time goes fast when we have you here. Thank you.
Tremendous to be here again. I was happy to come back.
We'll have you back. In the meantime, on behalf of Bob Boyd and Earl Murphy, I'm Dirk Keller, thanking you for joining us here on Sports Opinion every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18 and every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on Channel 18. If you missed that, you can go to patv.tv and they'll have the show logged there, or you can go to my Facebook page. I'll put it on Kyle's too. And you can watch the show there. On behalf of everybody here, including Judy Boyd, we want to thank all of you for being here, and including all the Murphy women and Joe Murphy, who's given me one of these things to say, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks.